Okay, for this tutorial I'm going to run through OpTech real quick and show you how to add a texture, and maybe go ahead and change it as well. So we're just going to do something real basic. If you have Photoshop, you can use Photoshop, but we're going to just try and change a texture real quick. But the process is pretty simple. You know it worked if your texture doesn't show up in game as pink. But first thing we want to do is create a new project, and that's a .opz file. So we're going to name it Imperial Shuttle. Okay, so now we're going to go to open. We're going to go to import opt. So now you're gonna navigate to your flight models file, which is, hang on, I gotta find it. Okay, flight models, Imperial Shuttle. Is it Lambda, maybe? What's it called? Maybe it's just shuttle. I think it's just shuttle. Shuttle.ops. Okay. Okay, so now the model's imported. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to look at, so you have both your low level and your high level here. Turn on the textures. So we can use the arrow keys to rotate. If we go to pan, we can pan it, but if I hold shift down, I can zoom in while it's under pan. Okay, so now we have the low polygon model, which is visible at distance, and then we have the high polygon model, which is visible close up. Now, if we click on face, let's see, I forget, mesh. Okay, so we're on the mesh portion, right? So it picks, the model is made up of several different large parts, right? So let's say we just want to change this top fin. So now everything on mesh 4 is selected. So we're going to click the button here, which allows me to pick the individual textures from that part of the 3D model, that mesh part. So what we can do over here in this window is we can actually pick all textures of the same type. And if we go to rotate, we can figure out where that texture is. Okay. Alright, so texture 26 has multiple entries because there's multiple flight groups. Alright, it's texture 26 and 27. Okay, so 26 is the base texture. Now if we click the flight group button down here, you see there's flight group, the second flight group color, the third flight group color, and that's it. Looks like there's just plane, Imperial, Rebel, and then it looks like a shuttle with a stripe down the nose. I guess that's Emperor Palpatine's shuttle. Okay. Yeah, it's just a stripe down the nose. No big deal. Okay. So let's say that we wanted to change that specific flight group color. So we're going to click on this button down here for texture. We're going to click back here, get the right mesh. So we're clicking that part of the cockpit. We're going to go back to texture. Okay, so looks like that texture is made up of 31 for the first flight group color, 32, 33, and 34. Now it looks like to me 31, 32, and 33 are the same texture, right? It doesn't change until the fourth flight group color, which adds the stripe. Okay. So let's say we want on this flight group, we want to change, put a big X on the wing here, right? So if we go back to the model, we click the right mesh, go back to face, go back to texture, click that. You'll see that that changes as well. So 26 is plane, 27 is Empire, 28 is Rebel, 29 is the same as 26, but it's a separate texture because if you don't choose a texture for some of the parts of the flight model, like probably the body here, if we click on it, you'll see that there's only one texture for all the flight group colors, right? So that means that no matter what, this body is going to use the texture from the first flight group color. But let's say I changed the flight group color for the first flight group and the second flight group on this one. Anything else that changes is going to default to the last flight group color. So if you start, that might not make sense until you start experimenting, but you'll see. But let's get down to brass tacks. We're going to click on this, click on the facing. Looks like the texture itself is texture 26 for the plane one, 29 for the Emperor Palpatine one. Right? So if we go and we navigate to Imperial Shuttle and we find texture, so 26 and 29 are the same. You could honestly modify either one. Let's edit in Paint. Okay, we're just going to change it as 29 and put an X on the end. Done. Alright. Okay, so if you're changing it with Paint, you'll notice that it doesn't come out right. So let's not do it in Paint. Let's do it in Photoshop. Christ almighty. Got so many windows open. There we go. I need to scroll past that. Jesus Christ, it's freaking me out. Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to change the mode to RGB color, which gives us the ability to add layers. We're going to add a layer on top, and we're just going to take brush, and it's going to be smaller, and we're just going to put an X. Okay, change the opacity a little bit. And we're going to save that as a BMP. Oh, well, actually, first, what we need to do is go back and change it back to index color so it saves it properly. Flatten layers, yes. It's going to come up with this option. We want to do local 256 selective, and then save as. Where's 29X? just change it to 29x. Okay. 8-bit, that looks good to me. Close that. Close that. Alright, so now, if we want to change the texture for the fourth flight group 0, 1, 2, 3, 29, what we do is we go back here, we find anything that had 29, which is there. These others, but we're going to change 29. Now, that should select both sides of 29. And now what we're going to do with this selected, not new, because that'll make a new flight group if we have that selected, but with this selected, I'm going to right-click in here. It updates the folders. It'll add the 29x, and boom, there's the x. Okay. Now here's the important part. If I click that, you'll see that it's only made up of a handful of faces, right? So you got 1, 2, 3. If we go to the texture list here, it's the left side of that wing is just these 3. So I could make the other side of that have no x if I wanted to. So I could change this back to 29, but as it is right now, both sides have an x because it changed both sides, right? So now we're just going to go ahead and select these 3, which is the opposite side. Okay, so we're going to change those 3. Go back to texture. Select that one. We're changing it back to 29 because that doesn't have the x. So now if I rotate it, you can see that on flight group 4, the left side of the wing has an x, the right side doesn't. And that's the one with the stripe down the middle. Now, if you use Photoshop and you index the color, re-index the color, saved it as an 8-bit, loaded it back into OpTech like we just did, OpTech is smart enough to properly compile that BMP into the new opt. But you have to compile the new opt. So what we have to do is go to Create Opt X-Wing Alliance. It says Done, but if we go to the folder, you'll see Imperial Shuttle X-Wing Alliance opt. So what we remember, if we go back, let's open up a new window. Line models. So we opened Shuttle, right? So the name that it gave it when OpTech saved it did not save it with the correct name. So what I would need to do is take Shuttle opt, the original Shuttle opt, name it .back, right? So that's, the game's not reading that one anymore. And then we would take this one, rename it just simple Shuttle, like it is in the game. And then we drag that right back in. Okay. Now, let's create a quick mission. Okay, so we're going to change that to Imperial Shuttle, Lambda Shuttle, color green. It's the last one so remember this one was plain, that one was Empire, that one was Rebel, and that one was the Palpatine with the stripe that we added the X to. If you use another editor called Yogami, it's an editor that's currently being developed, you can actually change the color to 256 additional options. So we could make more flight groups than just the main 4. That's what I did with several of my ops. The Star Destroyer that has damage textures is the 5th flight group color. Anyway, so we're going to save that now that we've changed it. We're going to load it into the game.
All commercial vessels parked in a white zone must be moved to their official hangar berths immediately, or they will be seized.
I'm currently plugging in my joystick. Please stand by. Alright. Okay. Alright. So. I think that's it. Quick launch. Oh hell, I could have recolored the player craft. I didn't realize I had made this mission where I'm flying a shuttle. But we're just gonna go find those TIE fighters. Okay, you can already see that the X on the MFD, the little center MFD, shows the X. You can see it there. So we know what we did works, right? But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a flyby and we're gonna see that the other side of the wing does not have the X. So you'll also notice it didn't just pop in until just now because we never actually changed the long distance models. But as we're getting closer, you can see the X's. And if we fly to the other side, no X's. So we did it right. Anyway, that's your tutorial. Pretty simple.